Don't you love it when things are both easier and more affordable? Like when the rain washes your car for you. Or like when you save up to 10% by bundling your renters and auto insurance with USAA. Bundle with USAA and start saving. Get a quote today.
There are people out there all across the country pushing boundaries to grow the game of golf. Like champion speed golfer Lauren Cupp, who plays faster than anyone else. And Will Lowry, whose work in the golf community inspires more kids to get into the game. As a champion partner of the Masters, Bank of America supports everyone determined to find out what's possible. In golf and in life. What would you like the power to do? Bank of America. Bank of America N.A. member FDIC, copyright 2025, Bank of America Corporation, all rights reserved.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
It's time for basketball, and Uber Eats is dropping deals on game day favorites to keep you locked in on the action. Like when you're craving a buzzer beater, but also buffalo wings. Or when an upset makes you want to ugly cry into a pizza. And right now, Uber Eats has game day deals from Burger King, Buffalo Wild Wings, KFC, and hundreds more local favorites. So you can keep your eyes on the ball and your hands on a burger. Order now, only on Uber Eats. Product availability varies by region. See app for details.
This episode is brought to you by Walmart. New beauty is in bloom at Walmart, and it's all about springtime radiance. From Drybar, Tula Skincare, and hundreds more available online. Walmart has the premium brands you want and this season's on-trend products for flawless, glossy hair and hydrated skin. Big name beauty brands? Check. The things you love? Check. Find trending spring beauty and all you need to look and feel gorgeous at Walmart, on app and online.
Hey there, Duke fans. Episode 718 of the Duke Basketball Roundup. We are, it's been not quite 24 hours, I guess about 22 hours or so since you all know what happened, since Duke lost to Houston. Donald and Jason here. I'm Jason. Duh, you know me. Donald's over there. He is still in San Antonio. I just want to say, first of all, we're going to do this episode a little differently from some of the others. Usually we're breaking it down to the good and the bad. What can Duke work on? That kind of stuff. Obviously that point is moot at this point because there's no more season left to go. Also, we usually start with headlines. We're going to get to that. We're going to get to headlines and to some other really poignant, meaningful comments from all of you, because we heard from just dozens and dozens and scores of you in the wake of the loss. We're going to get to that in the back half of this episode. The front half, the first stuff we're going to do is just me and Donald analyzing the game, talking about it, what happened, and all that other kind of stuff. Like I said, we're not going to do the good and the bad. It's all one thing at this point. Donald, I've just talked. You were right there. Brutal to be in the arena, wasn't it?
I'm still kind of in pain over it. You can kind of hear it on my voice. Everyone in that building wearing Duke blue gave everything, and for it to be another gut-wrenching loss in San Antonio, I don't know if I'm ever coming back, Jason.
Yeah.
2004 happened. This year happened. I just kind of took a day away from basketball when I with some friends went to a San Antonio Missions game. Went to a San Antonio FC game just to kind of, get some sports, but also kind of get away from basketball. Both of those teams lost. The Spurs, I went to the Spurs game on Friday night. The Spurs lost. Just sign me up and get me up out of here. I don't think San Antonio likes me too much because everything I've gone to so far this weekend has been a loss. But I think for a lot of folks, y'all have the pain that you hear on my voice, the pain that you hear in Jason's voice. And this is where we kind of get to talk through it, so to speak. So it's gonna be brutal, but this is Jason, this is why they pay us the penny per download or whatever to go through this stuff, and kind of put a cherry on a season that we were hoping would be extended another day.
It's so funny to me. First of all, you mentioned 2004 San Antonio. For folks who don't remember, we had an 8-point lead with about 2 or 3 minutes left in that game as well. And then every person over the height of 6'7" fouled out because the referees decided to determine the outcome of that contest. I don't know that the refs decided to determine the outcome of this contest, but man, there were some really, really bad calls. I can't believe how many people, neutral, not Duke lovers, neutral parties, NBA stars, commentators who get paid to not have a preference, who say that the foul on Cooper Flagg on the rebound of the missed free throw by Tyrese Proctor with 19 seconds left, they're just like, it's just not and the way that game had been called with lots of they were allowing contact, and you can discuss whether that was good for Duke or good for Houston. I don't know, but they were allowing contact, and then for the ref to do that, to essentially, he took the game out of the hands of the players. He decided himself and go ahead and put Houston at the line as opposed to having them earn it from the field.
I think the other one that a lot of people, again, not Duke people, just everybody in the gym last night was talking about the technical foul called on Mason Gillis after a 3-pointer that led to them getting a free throw. They made it 1 of 2, and then they got the ball and hit a basket. So it was a 6-point play. And that was at the time when that happened, everyone in the building was kind of like, that's a game changer. And it was, because they broke into, it was a 14-point lead at that point, I think. And they cut it down to 8 with 0 seconds coming off of the clock, and had a lot of momentum at that point. And that's kind of where it started to unravel for us. But the over the back call on Cooper was, again, you mentioned there was physical. There was a lot of physicality in this game. I thought Duke handled that for the most part pretty well. But at the end of the day, that was one where I felt, again, Jason, I think you saw my angle. I wasn't too close to the court, a little bit further back.
Right.
But that was the first one of the night where nobody touched anybody. And so that's where it kind of grinds at you that, hey, you're going to call that one at that moment, at least make it a foul, and at least make it where it's been earned. And at the time, it didn't feel like that was.
Yeah, there are a number of other controversial. Sion James on the play where he maybe got concussed, where he certainly got.
Yeah.
Like there was no foul called on that play. He's taken. Right. And by the way, literally seconds earlier, Cooper Flagg had gone up for a rebound and got completely cleared out on a rebound, and they called no. But I don't want to. Like I said, I don't want to get into the refs. I don't think it's productive when I think we all know the thing that did Duke in this game was the rebounding. I mean, absolutely stunning rebounding number for Houston, that they grabbed 18 offensive rebounds. Duke grabbed 21 defensive rebounds. That means that when there was a missed shot by Houston, there was better than a 46% chance that they would get the rebound. Donald, you and I spoke about this extensively on the preview. Mm-hmm. In fact, I want everyone to remember, on the preview, I led my discussion of the Houston subs, the Houston reserves, with JoJo Tugler, which, Donald, you had tried to set me up. You're like, oh, you got to talk about LJ Cryer. No, I'm not saying LJ Cryer didn't have a great game. Mm-hmm. But most people would have led with LJ Cryer or Milos Uzan or Emmanuel Sharp or Juwan
Roberts.
Juwan Roberts. Right. They would not have led with Joseph Tugler. Donald, I'm going to tell you, Joseph Tugler had 8 rebounds. He had 2 blocks in the second half. 8 rebounds, 2 blocks in the second half. And his ability to protect the rim, his ability to interfere with Duke getting baskets around the rim, I think was the difference in the game. When Duke was struggling in the final 10 minutes and couldn't get a bucket, it was because they were trying to go up against JoJo Tugler. And by the way, on the inbounds play where Cooper Flagg cannot control the ball, where Houston gets a turnover with 30 seconds left, it was JoJo Tugler who knocked it away. Man, The rebounding, though, God, they just again and again and again. And I don't know. Do we do this now? Do we do the man thing now?
Well, before we do, I think, and we'll get back to the rebound, obviously. I think all of that is fair and valid. And at the same time, we were still up 7 points with 50 seconds left. Like
Yeah,
we were
I
overcoming
agree.
all
Yeah.
of that. And so it's that definitely was a thing that we were struggling with. And at, in the last minute, the execution wasn't there. It was uncharacteristic of how we unraveled at that point in the, myriad of different ways,
Oh,
right?
wait. Hold on. Was it uncharacteristic?
It
Duke
was
lost. Hold on. Duke lost 4 games this year. In every single game that Duke lost, they had the ball with a chance to take the lead in the final 30 seconds. And on all 4, and I'm not saying Cooper Flagg didn't come through. He came through at other times. But on all 4 of the losses, ball was in Cooper Flagg's hands with 30 seconds left, and he didn't get it done.
but that's not unraveling. That is us with a we
True.
unraveled.
I agree. You're right.
In the last minute. That is uncharacteristic. How the game ended with Cooper with the ball in his hands. Yeah, sure, we've had that every time that we had a close game, and unfortunately, we wasn't able to get that shot. I thought it was a decent shot.
Yeah,
Maybe
I
he could
agree.
have got a better one, but I'm not throwing any shade at that. But I think the way that we unraveled with we've in those little things, right, that we had talked about during the year, we're like, hey, let's not make this a trend. It was inbounding the ball. It was making the front end of your one-on-ones on the free throw line. These little things that were
Grabbing a defensive rebound.
grabbing a defensive rebound, protecting the 3-point line, like those little things that we struggled with at times during the season, but it wasn't a trend. All of it came together in one unmagical moment for Duke. And on the other side for Houston, I know they probably are sitting there counting their stars because they're like, hey, we were able to walk out of here with the win because they didn't give up. And that's credit to them. But this always is going to feel like a game that we lost rather than one that Houston won. And that's just, that might be Duke rose-colored glasses, but that's how I feel. And that's how it is.
Yeah, look, not that Houston didn't, not saying Houston didn't deserve to, not in a
Correct.
million years.
Yeah, that was a tough game. Like neutral, that was a tough game. Tough, both games. Very, very tough. You have 2 teams in the national championship game that absolutely deserve to be there.
And I think my thing is, if you go back and watch the final 3 minutes or so, they're like 10, 12 things that happen, whether it's a shot goes up or a rebound that, they're events that happen in a game. There are 10 of them in the final 2 minutes or so that occur that are almost all of them are 50-50 kind of things. If you assume that Houston's a great offensive rebounding team, all these things are 50-50 kind of things. Tyrese Proctor taking the front end of a 1-on-1 should be higher than 50-50, but let's just call it a 50-50. That shot that Cooper Flagg took, it's 50-50 kind of shot. Con Knipple went to the rim at one point. It got blocked, 50-50 kind of play. Every single 50-50 play in the final couple minutes went Houston's way. Think about and literally, if one of them doesn't, Duke wins the game. And I think, I have this just as a general kind of thought. Part of the pain to me, part of the reason I am still, my wife, by the way, said to me earlier today, she's like, you're a pain in the ass to be around today. She's like, you're in a lousy mood all day. And I said, yeah, we lost.
Yeah.
But I was depressed all day. But part of the pain is knowing that we were the better team. No offense to Houston. They're an outstanding team. And should they win it all, a very deserving champion. And they fought their asses off. But from fairly early on in this game, it was clear that despite Houston being really, really good, Duke was just better, and not by a little bit. Houston was draining threes at a rate higher than they usually do, and Duke was up double digits. For much of the night, it seemed like Duke was on its way to an inevitable national title. As great as this Final Four was, Duke was an even money pick to win the national title, playing against a great Final Four. That's how good this Duke team was. Everyone expected them to finish off Houston and then beat Florida. Duke, by the way, I think would have been about a 5-point favorite over Florida. That'd be my bet. Maybe a little bit more than that. finish off Florida, and then Duke would go down as one of the all-time great teams. And what's painful is that that has slipped away. This Duke team will still be among the all-time great teams, but now it's the all-time greats that didn't win the title. And I imagine Kentucky fans felt this way in 2015. I'm trying to think back over Duke. Certainly I felt this way in 99.
99, 04, 86, 2011.
2019. Yeah.
Yeah. Like those 2002. Like it's a similar feeling.
Although I don't know. To me, there are a couple of those. This stung more than some of those because all those other games were like a nip and tuck game the whole way. You know, they were tight. 2002, that lost to Indiana, tight game the whole way. The loss to Michigan State by the 2019 team. I mean, I can go through all of them. 86, not against Louisville, 99 against UConn. I watched every single one of these games live. They were close games. This game was different in that you were like, Duke is better. Duke has a lead. I was relaxed. I was relaxed watching for the most part in the second half, especially. That's what makes it different.
I mean, the 2011 one, that was the Derek Williams half where he scored 25 points in the second half and just kind of came back and ran. Like, again, a team where I was like, that team should have won it all. But for the magical half by one person who never really did much ever again, you know, we're flying to the national championship. But I'll say this, Jason, a couple of stats about this. This is the first game that Duke lost in the shower era where they were up by 10 points during the game. They were 74-0 before that. Also, this might be the painful one. Duke is the only team in the NCAA tournament to have a game with a higher field goal percentage, more free throw attempts, more assists, fewer turnovers, and more steals than their opponent and lose the game. Before that, NCAA teams who qualified for that were 355-0.
That is so incredible.
Staggering. And that's why this hurts, is that being there, and even within a minute, I was still kind of in my world. I never thought at one moment, like, all right, this game is done, right? But this was a game that we had. This was a game where like you said, it felt like we were the better team, and it felt like we were taking it to Houston, despite some of the things that were, you know, off, or that they were beating us at. We were still overcoming all of those obstacles, and in the end, we wake up today with the pain of 1,000 lifetimes because 70-67 does not have Duke next to the 70. And it just sucks. It just really sucks that this team came all this way, and in the span of 50.7 seconds, it was gone.
I want to repeat so folks understand what you went through a second ago. You shoot better. You take more free throws. You have more assists, more steals, and fewer turnovers. In the history of the NCAA tournament, no team has done those things and lost their game. Oh, I mean, and we're talking, you said 350, I thought it was 335, maybe it is
355 and up.
355.
Yeah, according to Optic. Yeah.
Unbelievable. The turn of events that has to happen for that to happen to a team. Hey, I teased this. I mentioned this a moment ago, and I want to discuss this so folks understand it. If you haven't heard about the situation with Kamen Malawach, and Man had, I haven't gone back and looked to see his worst game of the year among his worst games of the year. He has 0 rebounds in this game, which is kind of incredible. You could be 7-2, the opposing team has no one over 6'7", and you could grab 0 rebounds. Now, I want to be clear, he was fighting for rebounds. There were a ton of rebounds where he was able to tap them, keep them alive, whatever. I thought he was doing a really nice job of that kind of stuff. But in the end, in terms of grabbing a ball that misses the basket and controlling it, Man had 0. But I want to tell folks so they understand what's going on, what happened yesterday with Man. Just a few hours before the game happened, he learned that Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State of the United States, Marco Rubio declared that every single person in the United States on a visa from South Sudan, Kamen Malawach is from South Sudan, if you are someone who had a visa from South Sudan, it is revoked. You are subject to immediate deportation. And this is all because of a dispute over, it's actually a dispute over one person. There's apparently like one South Sudanese person that the U.S. government wants to send back, and South Sudan is like, we don't think he shouldn't come back. He doesn't really belong here, or something like that. So the Trump administration has decided that as a penalty for South Sudan not taking this person, they've revoked the visas of every single South Sudanese person in the United States, and they will not be issuing any new visas for anyone from South Sudan to come to the U.S. I want everyone listening to this to understand the situation in South Sudan today. It is a country at civil war. It's been at war for several years. It is a dangerous place to be. There's no like rich suburbs or something like that. There's no safe place in South Sudan. Wherever you go, you are subject to potentially being shot by one side or the other. I think there are like 3 or 4 different rival factions that are fighting for control of the country. There are rebels who seize, I don't even know all the history, but it is one of the most dangerous places on the planet. I mean, I guess you could be like maybe Yemen. I don't know. But yeah, there's a tiny little list of places more dangerous to be than South Sudan. Kaman Malawach came to the U.S. on a student visa. It was his intention, I'm sure, to stay at Duke and complete his classes and then enter the NBA draft. And all that is now in question. He could literally, I think it is possible he could get deported at any moment. He is probably the most prominent South Sudanese person in the country. If Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, wants to make an example out of this, he would have ICE go grab Kaman Malawach right now. Now, we don't know how much his teammates knew about this. I've heard that Man was made aware of it. I mean, I don't know how he could not be made aware of it prior to the game.
You have to be at something like that. That is something you say immediately, because again, it's as you mentioned, it is a shaky situation where hours before a national semifinal game, you have to worry about that. And because you never know, especially again, like you mentioned, they are being escorted by police in the state of Texas, everywhere. He has to worry about that.
Yeah. So I just want everyone to be aware of the possibility that impacted the game that Man had. I feel for the guy. He must be terrified right now. Absolutely terrified. It is unclear, at least as far as my understanding is, it's unclear whether he's going to be able to, he'll still be in the draft and an NBA team will draft him, but it's very possible that there will be a very long, complicated process for an NBA team to be able to get him into the U.S. He's probably going to, unless they change their mind, he's probably going to have to go home, and it'll be uncertain when he can come back. It's just a horrifying situation, and he had to deal with that as he was also dealing with Juwan Roberts and JoJo Tugler.
I think also, and again, we're not trying to get political at this point. Jason and I have our thoughts that we could go on a tangent for hours about, but me, I live in DC, case closed. But what it is that the uncertainty is there, right? This could be fixed tomorrow. It could be, again, people could wake up 3 weeks from now and say, this was a bad idea, let's reverse it. We've seen that in some cases, but the uncertainty is what makes it scary. And it's not that Kaman Malawach is the most, one of the most prominent South Sudanese people in the United States. He's also 7'2". You can't hide someone who's 7'2", and he knows that. And that is why, and I know his family was here for the game. That is a terrible thing to have to go through hours before the biggest game of your career thus far. So I really feel for him. I feel for his family. And honestly, I mean, he is probably beating himself up more than anyone else could. So I'm not going to, because I thought, again, we ride with him. And if he has a bad game, then we have other guys that are around to pick him up. And it just wasn't enough. So it really, again, I keep referring back to this phrase. It really sucks that he had to go through that. It really sucks that he has to be ridiculed for his play when a lot of people don't understand that part of it, Jason. So
yeah.
And I hope that it allows him to finish out his classes and do the things he needs to do to prepare for the draft, because he has earned that right. And no one no entity should take that away from them.
I wanted to mention a couple things just about what happened in the final 10 and a half minutes or so. Duke only gets, by the way, one field goal in the final 10 and a half minutes. We only got one rebound, by the way, in the final 3.5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
With 8:17 left and Duke leading 59-45. Evan Maya, who's a brilliant observer of everything statistical that has to do with college basketball. Evan Maya, his computers, his projections had Duke with a 98.5% chance to win, 98.5. If you don't convert percentages into fractions, I'll do it for you. That's basically a 1 in 66, 1 in 67, a 1 in 66 shot of Houston coming back and winning the game. 1 in 66. They hit that 1 in 66 shot. And one of the things, Donald, that I thought was sort of interesting after the game, when CBS interviewed Jon Scheyer very quickly said that he didn't do enough to help his team win. I am not going to stand here and blame Jon Scheyer. I've seen some people who want to do that. John's not the one who caused Tyrese to miss the front end of the 1-and-1. John didn't cause Coop to miss that short jumper that he missed. Who's to say how much the guys followed Scheyer's instructions on the floor? You know, I don't know that Scheyer was telling Sion James, pass the ball into heavy coverage on this inbounds play. In fact, I think it's pretty likely that Scheyer said something different. That said, there are a lot of people who are wondering what John was doing in this game. The second half rotations were very weird. Caleb Foster only played 1 minute in the second half. I thought Caleb Foster was excellent in the first half, that he handled the pace, he handled the pressure really, really well. Much better than I would have thought he would have. But he only plays 1 minute in the second half. Mason Gillis only played 2 minutes. Man, about the most impactful 2 minutes ever, because that inadvertent, and it was inadvertent, that inadvertent flagrant one, as we discussed, completely changed the game around. But Mason did that and basically didn't play anymore. I have to wonder if Cooper Flagg was a little bit winded because his replacement, Mason Gillis, barely played in the second half. You know, maybe Sion James makes better decisions in the second half if he didn't play 19 plus minutes of the second half. Maybe Tyrese Proctor isn't shorting his jumpers and shorting his free throws if he plays less than 19 minutes in the second half. Maybe Cooper doesn't short that jumper if he doesn't play close to 19 minutes. Khan played all 20. Those four guys, Sion, Tyrese, Cooper, and Khan, played all but 3 minutes, basically, of the second half. I wonder a little bit why Jon Scheyer didn't use his bench just a little tiny bit more. And I also wonder, God, we didn't have anything else we could do against their press. We didn't have anything else we could do against, Houston's going to pressure you on an inbounds pass if they need to. And yet here was Duke, like, it didn't look like, I watched some of the replays. It just didn't look like we were running anything cohesive on those inbounds plays. In fact, I saw the key one, the one that we lost. The play starts, Sion has the ball, and Cooper's like right in front of him. And Cooper is being guarded by Emmanuel Sharp, who is 6'3" on his tiptoes. I don't know why you don't just toss it up to Cooper. Emmanuel Sharp was not going to. You toss it up, Cooper's going to get it. Emmanuel Sharp is not. Cooper's 6 inches taller than him and can jump higher than him. And instead, we ran something where Cooper went to the middle, right next to JoJo Tugler, and then we tossed it up to him, and Tugler knocked it away. Like, of course he did. Like, that's entirely predictable that would happen. Again, I'm not blaming Jon Scheyer. I'm sitting here, I go, it's not Sheyer's fault. Then I name all these things Scheyer did. I'm not blaming Jon Scheyer, not by a long shot. But I think Jon Scheyer did say to you, he didn't do enough to help his guys. I think Jon Scheyer probably, you and I didn't sleep much. Jon Scheyer really didn't sleep last night. And I think he is going to replay that second half in his mind again and again and again. And I think the next time Duke gets to the Final Four, you may see the team a little more prepared. I'm not saying we were unprepared, not by any stretch of the imagination, but I do think maybe like Scheyer said, there's more that Scheyer could have done to help these guys out.
I mean, look, the old adage is players win and coaches lose, right? Like, and he'll be the first to tell you that he accepts his portion of the blame here. And I'm not going to blame anybody for this because, like I said, this was a game that blaming means that Houston did not deserve to win this game, and they did. They absolutely deserved to win it. We deserve to win it too. It's just only one team was able to actually win, and there's a lot of things that could have happened. And again, we saw the inbound struggles kind of poke their head during the postseason, a little bit during the regular season, and the idea was maybe they had plays that were ready to go when they did have a press. They'd work on press breaks all the time. Every basketball team does. But in the moment, you have to excuse, 19 to 23-year-olds, or in the case of Cooper, 18 years old, you have to excuse them if they forget, how to run a play or they don't execute it correctly. And again, it's just at those inopportune times that it happened. They're pressing earlier in the game, and Duke was able to kind of get out of it and get down and get in transition and make Houston have to kind of rush things. But I think John Shire will learn from this. This is let's not forget his third year as a head coach.
Yeah.
And his first Final Four, when Coach K went to his first Final Four, he didn't win it either. So it's not like he's doing something. They're not doing something that other people have done, and he's not living up to the standards. He is exceeding the standards by getting his team to a Final Four. And just like the players, coaches learn from these moments too. It's hard to take a loss, but at the end of the day, you will learn from it, and Coach Shire will become a better coach for it. The rest of the coaching staff will become better coaches for it. They'll remember this, they'll learn, and maybe that serves as the motivation for next year's team as the coaching staff to, hey, this is what we need to do to make sure that our team is ready in every facet of the game that could possibly bring itself up in the last minute of a national semifinal game, because that when we get back to this moment, we are going to be ready for that moment. We're going to seize it. Sometimes that comes at the result of, learning from something that didn't go well. And that's the case this time.
Hey, I just want to run through the box score really quick and just do a few shout outs. We've been talking in general terms, haven't talked about specific players all that much. I thought Con Knipple had a very, very nice game. Ends up with a team leading 7 rebounds, 16 points, 5 of 9 shooting, including 3 of 5 from 3. I thought Con was quite good in this contest, and it's such a pity to have his career end this way. Cooper Flagg, even though he missed a lot of shots in the final 5 to 7 minutes when it felt like Duke offense was, hey, Coop, take it and see if you can hit a difficult shot, a difficult long 2. Not my favorite analytical situation. But for Coop to go 3 of 4 from 3, 27 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, and 3 blocks. My goodness. Dude just fills up the box score in a very big way. And look, he went out with a game where he showed why he is as great as he is. I thought that Caleb Foster, like I said, played pretty nicely in his limited minutes. And the box score doesn't show it except for this. His plus minus when he was on the floor, Duke was plus 10, which is a pretty darn good number. Another guy who had a really nice plus minus and who had a really good game, welcome back Malik Brown.
Mm-hmm.
Had a plus minus of plus 10 as well. Malik picks up 3 assists, 3 rebounds in very, very limited minutes. Had a couple steals. He showed that he remains that outrageous disruptor. Even had 2 buckets, had 4 points. And I know that Malik, his arms probably would barely let him get the ball up to the basket.
Well, I'll say, Jason, I went to the open practice on Friday, and I think the ever-growing question was how much is Malik going to be utilized and how much has he improved from the second shoulder dislocation. And let me tell you, he was dunking the ball. He was shooting 30-footers in practice, and everybody that was at the open practice was like, hey, Malik looks 100%. Now, afterwards, he said he wasn't, but it felt like they utilized him more in the role that he was brought to play, right? He did a little bit more of that. He was the disruptor, and it didn't feel like he was limited in that. The fact that you mentioned he had the 2 steals, he had a couple deflections as well. And again, that's where he dislocated his shoulder both times. So it would be, again, it would be okay for someone to be a little bit nervous about putting their hand back into a passing lane, but he was doing that like it was the first day of practice. And again, guys laid everything on the line for the ability to try and get to play one more game. And so some of those guys that you just mentioned had great games, and it was because they left everything. They gave everything, and you cannot be any more proud of how they performed. Yes, details matter, but the heart was there, the tenacity was there, and the grit was there. It just, again, 3 points short.
Yeah, there's nothing more to say than that. We're going to take a quick break. On the other side, as we promised earlier, those of you out there in DBR Podcast land have reached out to us all year long, and we are going to honor you by talking about some of the things that you had to say. We'll have that and a lot more coming up after the break. Stick with us.
All right, Duke fans, the finals for March Mania are here. And the only thing for sure is it's the last time to bet on college basketball this season. Get in on all the action, expected and unexpected, with DraftKings Sportsbook.
That's right, Donald, with live betting, exclusive content, promos, parlays. DraftKings is the ultimate college basketball destination for March. And if it's your first time using DraftKings, you can get something special. $5 in bets for $150 in bonus bets instantly. It is a great deal as we close out the season.
Bet the unexpected with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code DUKEBB. That's code DUKEBB for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Lowe's knows member-only doorbuster deals make SpringFest savings even better. Right now, rewards members can get 3 19.3-ounce Bonnie Plants vegetables and herbs for just $10. Plus, save $50 on a Charbroil Performance Series 4-burner grill, now $149. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 4/7, excludes Alaska and Hawaii. Selection varies by location, subject to change. While supplies last. Program subject to terms and conditions. Details at lowes.com/terms.
This episode is brought to you by the Nissan Armada Pro 4X. With a twin-turbo V6 engine ready to propel your adventures, up to 8,500 pounds of towing capacity to haul all your favorite toys and space for 8 passengers. Nissan's most powerful car yet will chew up and spit out anything you throw at it. Learn more about the all-new 2025 Nissan Armada at nissanusa.com. Towing capacity varies by configuration. See Nissan Towing Guide and Owner's Manual for additional information. Always secure cargo.
Wow, this house is cute. But can I really get in the game in this economy? I do have savings, and I am responsible-ish. Ugh, I should bury it. I'm being wild. But what if I'm not being wild, though? Could I actually score a...
Kick off your home buying journey with Zillow's new buyability tool. It makes it easy to find out what you can afford, so you can get off the bench and onto the playing field with confidence. Check your buyability, only on Zillow.
Donald, we're back from the break. Wow, did the DBR community ever reach out to us? So many people, by the way, who, like, not even their headline or their comment or whatever, just wanted to say thank you to the two of us. I don't know why they're doing that. We say thank you to all of you. The fact that we have this community, it is such a blessing for Donald and I to have this connection with all of you. I get the sense some of these people write to us and I'm like, I've never met this person before. They wouldn't know me if we bumped into each other on the street, and they're talking to me and I talk back to them like they are an old friend. And it really is something special. I know lots of the time we try to write back to almost everyone who writes to us. Just couldn't do that today because of the volume of the emails that we received. But I wanted to do, first of all, some headlines, Donald. Then there were some comments from some people that I wanted to read. Did you have a chance to do headlines, or were you unable to?
No, I did. So I found some headlines, and just real quickly to echo a little bit of what you were saying at the pregame party, the Iron Dukes threw. I could not walk more than 10 feet without bumping into somebody who said that they enjoyed the podcast. A lot of people, Jason gave you trash for not being there, but we understood it was all in fun. But it was a reunion of sorts, and the podcast. I mean, shout out a few people that came up and talked about, hey, we've listened to every single one. And I'm like, guys, you are animals. I have not listened to every one of our podcasts this week because we've done so many. I've had to, we were doing one from a parking lot in Austin because that's what it entailed. That's what, when duty called. And we do this. And I said this before, we started this because there was no Duke podcast. And we said, hey, we already talked Duke basketball with each other. We should just maybe record it so other people will maybe listen. And it still trips me out when someone, based off of the sound of my voice, comes over and says, you run a podcast, don't you? And it's ever humbling, and it's always a lot of fun to interact with so many people. But yesterday felt like, and just this whole week, the amount of people who have emailed us, like, why are you emailing us to say thank you? We are doing this for you, and we appreciate you for listening to Jason and I ramble on about random stuff, having DBR bites that last an hour and a half long because we can't stop talking, and having regular episodes that might be shorter than the bites. We do this because we all love Duke basketball, and over the years we have grown an ability to at least relate to all of you. That's our job, is to relate to all of you with what we're saying, so that you guys get a little bit of what you're thinking about and talking about in all your various group chats. So thank you again for listening for us and putting up with us throughout all these years.
All right, with that, let's get to some of the headlines. First of all, Don, I don't know if you picked any of the Houston we have a problem headlines. We got about 10. Houston, we have a problem, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. I said, okay, if you wrote to us and said, Houston, we have a problem, and then you had some other comment, just as far as you're concerned, I just read it, okay? There were too many of them, and frankly, there was no one that sort of stood out from the rest, so I'm just skipping all of those. But Steve Van Dude gave us a terrible ending to an amazing story. That may be the best headline I read. I was just like, that sums it up perfectly. Thank you, Steve.
Yeah. Eric Bishop, again, we were talking about the over the back call. He wrote, it wasn't over the back, but Houston came back and it's over. Which
I like that one.
Is very cool.
That was on my list.
Yeah.
Tom Wildermuth, all great things must come to an end. Another one that just sums it up so perfectly. Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, Nick Vinansky wrote in, and he wrote, second chance points and second half game management sinks Devils in final seconds. He used alliteration, Jason, with the word second. Did not think we could do that on the show, but here we are.
Another one with alliteration. This is my last true headline. Mark Esselstein, Final Four fizzle as Dale. Wait, I'm going to start over on this because this is good and I can't mess it up. Final Four fizzle as Devils fail to finish. Woo! I read it once. I will not try to read it again. Good job, Mark.
I read it and I knew that you were going to say it, so I didn't want to trip over those words. So I allowed you.
You're a wise man.
Yeah. I have a few more like actual headlines, Jason. So Nandita Jarawala wrote in and they wrote, Cougars crush Devil dreams and prolonged decade drought. Of course, our sights are still on 6 championships, and that continues for at least another year. Keith Limack wrote, one terrible minute of basketball leaves a lifetime of heartache for Blue Devils. Heath, nail right on the head right there. And Chi Liang Ho wrote one I think is a little bit more uplifting. And Chi wrote, "Broken hearts shall be mended. We shire rise again."
I like that. All right, so there are a couple others that I wanted to do, just some comments and that people did. But first, there was a very nice poem. John Barnhill gave us this one. "We may have died, but we tried. We're now done, but it was fun. Let's not whine. We'll be fine. Houston beat us. They didn't defeat us. We'll be back on the attack. I won't be a crier. We've got Shire. One night, a loser. But here come the boozers." And then he closed by saying, "We were just so close to heaven. But in the end, Houston 70, Duke 67. John, that's a really, look, our bar for poems is high. You hit it, buddy. That's a really well done tribute.
My poem bar is much higher than yours, Jason, because you know I don't read a lot of them. That one was worth the read.
So Nick Soprano wrote to us, and I just wanted to read this comment from him. He said, "It was a tremendous season. I know I shouldn't be this upset. If you told me at the beginning of the year that we were going to make the Final Four, I would have been ecstatic. But right now, I feel that my heart and my soul have been ripped from my body. This team was so talented. It gelled so well together. It was the true definition of a brotherhood. They deserved this title." Nick, I couldn't agree more. I thought when I read that, I was like, dude, he's just summing up everything I had to say beautifully. And then the last one I wanted to mention was Brian Jones, who said he watched this game with his 14-year-old son, Cameron. I highly approve of that name, Brian. He said Cameron was invested in this team in the way he never had been in the past. 14. Brian said he hoped that Cameron was going to get his first title here and that it would, make him a Duke fan for life. And Brian wrote, much like you guys, he said, "I've closely followed every Duke team since the 83-84 season." He said, "I feel like the luckiest fan in the world to have been able to watch this many years of sustained excellence. However, with sustained success comes unbelievable heartache and pain. And I wouldn't want it any other way," he said. He said, "If we won every year, we'd take it for granted." He said, "Following the 1986 to 1990 Final Four run, I was so grateful for the 91-92 back-to-back titles." He said, "After the 1995 debacle of a season, I promised myself I would never take for granted things like getting ACC wins, winning ACC regular season and postseason titles." He said after the heartbreaking defeats in 98 and 99, he said it made 2001 even sweeter. The gut-wrenching defeat in 2004, the challenge of not getting to the Sweet 16 for the next 6 years, he said that made 2010 that much more glorious. And then he said after the first round defeats in 2012 and 2014 to get title number 5 in 2015. And he summed up by saying, "Last night's loss hurts. It hurts to the soul. But boy, do I feel lucky to have watched this amazing team play all year." And what Brian is functionally saying there is, we're going to get another one, folks. It's going to happen. And though this one stings, hurts, it's painful, it will make the next one even sweeter because we know how hard it is to do, how hard it is to be the last team standing, to end your season happy, because most of the time we don't.
I mean, in the first half of the show, we listed 7, 8 different teams that we thought were good enough to win and ended up coming up just shy. Most teams don't have 7 to 8 good seasons.
Yeah.
Where they make the tournament. We have 7 to 8. We can debate teams that did win a national championship and how good they were all time. We have that luxury. And like you said, it is incredibly difficult to win a national championship. This year, again, we had the best team. We felt we had played the best game. We had the best player in college basketball. We had some of the best freshmen in college basketball. We had a coach who did an excellent job of bringing everything together, and we had togetherness unlike anything we've ever seen. And in the end, it just wasn't enough. And we didn't get the luck factor, right? I always say that there's a lot of skill that is involved in a title run, and luck has to be a part of that situation. And the luck ran out, and it sucks, but that is going to be something that we will look back on. Jason, just think about it this way. I know 4 years ago we had a COVID shortened season, but 4 years ago we were not in the NCAA tournament.
Nope.
And then in the next 3 of 4 years, I'm sorry, 2 of the next 4 years, we make the Final Four and are within an arm's grasp of the final game. We're going to be back, ladies and gentlemen. It maybe next year, maybe the year after that, maybe all of those years. We don't know, but this is something that is going to happen. And we will take the lessons learned from this game and apply them to that moment, so that next time when we are at this moment, John Shire is going to understand the moment, and his players are going to understand the moment, and hopefully we'll get that luck back and we'll get to the final game and win it.
Since 1985, when the NCAA field expanded, no team has made more Final Fours than the Duke Blue Devils have. No team has won more national titles than the Duke Blue Devils have. Sorry. Yeah, hell yeah, this team is going to be back. And the other thing I wanted to note is there's a bunch of banners that are going to be going up in Cameron Indoor Stadium as a result of this team. They won a regular season title in the ACC in record-setting fashion, 19-1, never been done before. They won an ACC tournament title despite the Player of the Year being out for basically the entire tournament.
Not a toy poodle league, Jason. Not a toy poodle league, like another coach mentioned.
Yeah. They were the AP regular season champions, #1 in the polls. They won the East Regional and made the Final Four. That's an unbelievable year. The number of, huge accomplishments is it's incredibly striking for a team that, as we've mentioned again and again, Donald, is doing it different than every single other team in college basketball, doing it with freshmen, doing it with a team that functionally was put together on the fly exactly a year ago. It's a truly incredible accomplishment, and credit to our coaching staff, to the hard work of those players, to the managers, the scouts, and everybody. I mean, there's a whole army of people who deserve credit for all of this, and we can't wallow in the fact that they didn't accomplish one more banner.
Jason, I think this is a great segue into kind of the vibes and everything that was going on down here in San Antonio. First off, Duke put on a show, straight up. It was a great scene. A ton of Duke fans were down here, and everyone was in great spirits, right? Like before the game, we had the radio show. It was David Shumay, who we had earlier this week. Justin Robinson, who's a friend of the pod, has been on the pod a couple times, even before he was a Duke player. Because Jason met him at a Top Golf event down here in San Antonio. I've not been to that Top Golf, Jason. So there's that. But they had a nice radio show. I was able to talk to them, ask a question about how tight-knit this Duke team was. The pregame party, like I mentioned, was like a reunion. It was everybody who was at this game, people who did not have tickets, who just wanted to be a part of the action, were all there. It was a lot of fun. The amount of basketball players, Jason, and former players that came back is staggering. I got to say hi to Ryan Young and his family. We chatted for a few minutes. Jeremy Roach was there, Andy Borman, Reggie Love, Ty Thornton, Josh Hairston was running around there. I got to, after the game, I was at drinking away our sorrows and ran into Kenny Blakeney, got to chat with him for a few minutes. Nolan Smith was there as well. There's just so many players who came back for this moment. And I know they were all as gutted as we were, probably even more so, because they, some of those players that I mentioned, they understand what that moment feels like. And again, that kind of speaks to the program, that you have so many guys who know what that feeling feels like, and they feel the same way. Because throughout generations, from Kenny Dennard all the way down to, again, like Spencer Hubbard, spanning 45 years of basketball here. And there's I think we mentioned this in the show, since '86, every Duke class has seen a Final Four on the men's side.
Yep.
In Duke history, which is incredible. That's so many generations of people who can commiserate the same way, understand what it means to be a champion, and understand what that feeling might be like to get close. And so it's just the fact that they were all there to cheer on this team. This team just really united our fan base in a way that a lot of teams haven't in years past. And that's what makes this so gut-wrenching for everybody, is that this team was so much fun to watch. We kept saying it's not the destination, it's the journey. God damn, this was a great journey. I just so sad that it's over. But it was a fun ride. It's a roller coaster I'll do again, Jason. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, I think I mentioned this earlier. There are people who've said to me, they're not sure they can keep doing this. It is painful, but God, folks, you got to remember the great times. This is a team that routinely had us just giggling, giddy laughter at the Illinois game. I mean,
right.
Just the first Carolina game. There's so many games this year where this team just made you smile, sit back, relax, and enjoy everything about it. It was just that, yeah.
I mean, and I know as this sun sets on this season, we start looking towards the off season stuff, and it did not escape me the fact that in the pregame, or before the pregame, actually, we were out kind of watching whatever, and we were able to watch the Boozer twins win another Chipotle national championship.
Yeah,
same day. And they'll be on this campus in just a couple months' time. I'm ready to be heard again, Jason. Just point me the way. But it's, again, the future's bright. We talked about that this week. And as these guys decide what they're going to be doing with their future, there's going to be a lot of people latching on to some of these players. And there were so many, first of all, Jason, there were so many haters that found my phone number last night that have been silent all year talking about Cooper Flagg. I promise you, every fan base in the NBA is hoping that they get that number one pick because Cooper Flagg will be coming to their city. It may not even fit, right? Shout out to Wizards. I don't know if him being there is good for him, but it will be good for me if he gets on the Wizards, because I'll get to see him play as many times as possible. Everyone wants a player like that. Everyone needs a Con Knipple. Everyone wants a Common Malawach. Everyone needs a Sion James and a Tyrese Proctor. And wherever these guys end up, it's going to be fun to watch them and remember, like you mentioned, the good things that they were able to do and accomplish, all those banners that they were able to accomplish here. It's a special group. And so that's why the pain is a little bit deeper this evening, because it hurts that we don't get to see this team that we enjoyed so much play again.
Yeah, one more game. What we would not give for one more game.
Yep.
Look, we're not going to really get into the speculation who's going to be back, who's not going to be back, NBA decisions, transfer portal decisions, all that other kind of stuff. The next few weeks, that's all we're going to be doing probably over the next few weeks. For now, we're still on this team, but I did want to mention very quickly, just because this happened in the postgame locker room, Mark Watson of Blue Devil Nation was in the locker room, and he spoke to Darren Harris after the game. He spoke to a lot of people after the game, but Darren was one of those guys you kind of get a one-on-one with. And they talked about, how sad it was and how hard the team had worked and all the other kind of stuff. And then toward the end of the interview, he went ahead and said, "Do you expect to be here next year?" And Darren Harris said, "Well, that's the plan." Now, I don't want to treat that as a definitive answer from Darren Harris, but Duke quite often doesn't give you, Duke doesn't make the announcement, "Oh, this guy's coming back." They mostly just stay, if a guy's coming back, they just sort of stay quiet about it. So it may be that this is the announcement we get from Darren Harris, that he's coming back. What I've heard, my expectation is that Harris, even though he did not get to play very much this year, that was not a big surprise for him. He knew that there was, a big uphill for him to get big minutes at Duke, but that his plan is very much to continue to be a part of the Blue Devil program and make his impact felt down the road, hopefully next season.
Yeah.
So
I was going to say, the times we hear Duke announcing that someone is coming back is if that someone was expected to declare for the NBA draft.
Right.
And they say, hey, I'm coming back for another year. Kyle Filipowski and Tyrese Proctor last year, right? Those are the most recent examples of that. But
and Mark
normally,
Mitchell. Yeah.
And Mark, yeah. And normally it's just like, oh, we haven't heard from this person in 3 weeks. I guess he's still here. I think Spencer Hubbard announced he was sticking around in a joking fashion. Damn it, Jason, we don't get any more Spencer Hubbard. This is so unfair. But yes, I think the fact that he, at least now, and it's hard to answer that question in the heat of the moment. So for him to say that's the plan, that probably is. But I think over the next coming weeks, we'll see some players probably make those decisions, and hopefully we keep most of them, if not all of them, in Durham, because I think that would be great for next year's team.
Yeah, no, I think there are solid 4 to 5 players who have interesting decisions ahead of them, and I think a lot of people expect most of them to come back to Duke. This would be the model that Shire has talked about pretty extensively. You bring in some stud freshmen. You have several guys come back who know the program and who expect to get better year after year, and then you bring in a couple guys in the transfer portal. I think that would be an absolutely ideal makeup for next year's team, and I fully anticipate if it's who I think will be back and who I think Duke can hopefully get in the portal, we will be a national title contender again. We'll be primed to make everybody miserable all over again next year. I can't wait for it.
Ready to hurt, ready to bleed. Jason, real quick, I wanted to mention, because I know there's a lot that was going on this weekend, but Cooper Flagg picked up a couple more National Player of the Year awards. He picked up arguably the most coveted ones, right? He had the AP already. He then got the Naismith and the Wooden. So by my count, Jason, the only one of the top of the big 6 that he did not get was the Sporting News one, which went to Janai Broome. But consensus National Player of the Year, ladies and gentlemen, Cooper Flagg.
Yeah, and very much deserving of that title, no question about it. All right, with that, right at an hour, we're going to wrap things up here on the DBR Podcast, the Duke Basketball Roundup. Keep on writing to us, folks. dbrpodcast@gmail.com. We'll keep reading them. We'll keep talking about what you have to say when we get together, me and Donald. It's not, the schedule isn't going to be quite as set as it has been, because there aren't specific games, but there are some all-star games coming up. There are some, involving the freshmen or the current high schoolers. We have to recap the stats game. None of us picked Cooper Flagg to lead Duke in enough categories, so I have no idea who's going to win the stats game, but we'll be doing that in the next few days for sure. And then we get into the draft and portal decisions of all of these guys. Everybody has to meet with Jon Scheyer. That's the first thing that happens over the next few days, is these guys are going to sit down and chat with Jon Scheyer, and John's going to talk to them about their role and Duke's future and what he thinks they should do. And quite often what he thinks is what they end up doing. They've learned to trust the man. I also did want to mention very, very quickly, the whole world of NIL is going to be changing fairly soon. There's been several reports out there in the past 24, 48 hours that the very, very generous people who support Duke athletics have made it clear to Jon Scheyer that he's got plenty of money to spend. In fact, there's a report that Duke may be spending upwards of $10 million on players next year, which is way, way more than we spent this past year. So it may be that Duke goes after bigger profile targets in the portal than you might have already thought. Anyway, we'll see. I haven't sources that haven't told me about that, but that's the word that's out there on the street. On3, which is a pretty reliable place for reporting this stuff, says that Duke's NIL budget is going to be in the $10 million range, if not higher.
I mean, that'd be great. So let's do it.
Yeah, exactly. We don't need to see the SEC schools and the Big 12 schools buying all the players. Duke can go out and buy a couple players themselves. I got no problem with it. With that, he's Donald in San Antonio. I'm Jason in Atlanta. And this is the Duke Band. They're playing us out and taking us home.